Welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and it is show number 149. Happy to be with you. Glad to be running this podcast live on Facebook. Extremely proud to be a member of these next two groups here, the Education Podcast Network. Chris Nessie and the work he's doing. Certainly support this podcast, but all of the education podcasts on there, as well as my friends at Voicehead Radio Canada, Stephen Hurley doing great work, live radio every morning there, Voicehead Radio Canada. Really appreciate being considered in their groups there. So, hello, welcome, Mom, good to see you. All of our regular watchers and listeners, happy to be with you. We are going to meet Assistant Principal Danielle Kalinski here in a moment. She is from the Buffalo area, and I love how Western New Yorkers, I love the term Western New York. I grew up in Staten Island, New York. Like I didn't even know it was there, right? Like, and now I've met so many great people from that area. It's such a beautiful area, and we're going to meet Danielle in a moment. And she hasn't been doing this 20 years. She hasn't been doing assistant principal or principal stuff for a while, and she jumped in the pool here to talk about this, and we're excited to meet her momentarily. A little commercial. I am starting a leadership, a mastermind group and a coaching group made up of school administrators. We're kicking this off on January 10th, and there'll be two sessions, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Those are on Sundays, and they'll run for 6 weeks. So if you're an educator, you have read my book, you know me a little bit, I'd love for you to join us. We have a number of people signed up. I'm going to limit the groups to 5. So they're small groups, and they're mastermind groups. We're going to brainstorm, we're going to share, we're going to grow together, we're going to learn. So if you are interested, it's on my website. Certainly reach out to me. I'd love for you to be part of that. Deanna Stevenson, my friend here, Western New York, representing Deanna, or Dr. Dina, excuse me. So, but I appreciate that you being here, Dina. So that was one thing. The second thing I wanted to share, I wanted to say thank you to all the educators out there, all the teachers out there, people that are working in the schools, the custodians, right? God, the cafeteria staff, central office administrators, all of us that make up schools, people are just working hard, right? They're working hard through this. They're in a new time and doing the best they can. So I do want to give a thank you to all of them here on, a couple weeks before the holidays, and just to say thank you for that. And the last thing, I did one of my leadership sparks recently about the balloon being full, right? And people are they're just stressed, right? You could say good morning to somebody, and they'll say, good morning. Are you crazy? We're in a pandemic. This is crazy. And they're just so stressed. So we as school leaders, we got to be mindful of that. Take it down a notch, absorb, right? Just, okay, it's just take it down a notch. People are stressed, and certainly going into the holidays, we know that it ratchets up even more. So be mindful of that, and be patient with each other, be kind with each other during these times. So, but let's get started. We're going to meet again, Danielle Kalinski here in a moment, Frontier Middle School Assistant Principal. She's our guest today. And I met Danielle last spring. She joined a book study of my book, The Principal, Surviving and Thriving. And right, she was kind of new to administration, and she did something that she had never done before, right? She joined this group, and it was a blast. We had an awesome group, and we all learned a lot. And, the point I wanted to open with is the power of a single experience. Danielle stepped out of the norm. She did something. She read the book, and she participated in all of the sessions. She really stood out as a leader in the sessions. And I invited her to come on. And now she's taken another step, right? Something that she hasn't done before. And it goes back to that concept of the power of a single experience, right? I think these interactions we have with people, right? If Danielle had said no to the podcast, hey, that's okay too, but she wouldn't be moving on. A quick story, my friend, Dr. Al Saki in Connecticut is a principal, and he got a new job at a new school, a much bigger school and a much bigger responsibility. And he called me after he got the job, and he said, Drew, as he calls me in that voice, Drew. He said, they listened to the podcast. They listened to the podcast and they got to know me through it. And it was through that experience that, again, Al came on the podcast, Dr. Al Saki. You want to watch that episode? It's way back when. He took a risk coming on, and Danielle's taking a risk coming on. So that power of the single experience, you never know where it's going to go. Engage with people, put your best foot forward, and see where it takes you, right? The more things you can take part in, the more things you're going out of your norm, they're going to help you. And Danielle's a great example of that. And let's bring her into the show here now. She is in the waiting room here, stayed at school late. I'm going to bring her in here. And bam, there she is. Danielle, welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, really happy for you to join us. Folks, this is Danielle Kalinski. Am I pronouncing it right, Danielle? Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. Yes, you are.
Okay. And she is the assistant principal at Frontier Middle School, Western New York, as they say. Dr. Dean is watching. Danielle, what are your thoughts on that opening concept about, again, the power of a single experience and your journey, which brought you right here today?
Well, for sure, I think that having those little moments that stick out in your mind, and when you reflect on that and think back to, that moment in time that you didn't realize was going to have such an impact on you, I think that is just so profound, because you can think back to, like, how did I get here? And sometimes it wasn't, I think most people would say that their path was not intentional or purposeful, that they kind of ended up in some of the places kind of by accident. And they're glad that they did, but it would not have been their intentional path.
Yeah. Well, you're here today, and I'm glad that you did that. Why don't you give an introduction of yourself to our listening audience, because we're national, we're global here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. And tell us who you are, Danielle.
Well, this is my second year as an assistant principal at Frontier Middle School. And prior to that, I had been a special education teacher at Frontier Middle School. And even prior to that, I had been a student at Frontier. So with my husband. So I have a wonderful husband, and we've been married for 22 years. And we have two amazing children, and they are, my daughter Olivia is 13, and she's in the 8th grade at Frontier Middle School. Yeah, are you noticing that we're a very Frontier family? Yeah. And my son is in 9th grade at Frontier High School. His name is Johnny.
Wow. All Frontier Middle School. Did you and your husband talk? Did you meet in middle school?
No, we actually never met in high school. We met afterwards. I was 19 when I met him, graduated, already in my first year of college.
Oh, wow. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I'm going to have to visit Frontier Middle School, get me a t-shirt here. And Danielle, what is it like for you? I know I'm always interested in this. Being that you were a teacher there and now an administrator, was that hard to transition into that role?
I think that what held me back from moving into administration was that I thought that it would, but it actually feels very natural to me, as though it's where I always should have been. So I definitely am very cognizant of the transition and some things that might be, a little bit more difficult for me, because I have a lot of close relationships with people within the building. But I think for the most part, it's been only a positive thing. I have actually been, as a special ed teacher, a co-teacher with about 20 of the teachers that are in the building. So it's very natural for me to be in other people's classrooms because I've already worked with them there. So I feel very honored and grateful that they welcome me in that way. But I definitely think that the transition was surprisingly way easier than I thought it was going to be.
Awesome. And as you're in your second year here and still early in your journey, what would you say, Danielle, are some things really important to being a school leader, being successful as an assistant principal? What would you say some characteristics or skills are for that role?
Well, I think having a growth mindset is super important, because always trying to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday, I think, is a great attitude to have in any role that you play. And it doesn't really matter what job or what field you're in. I think that growth mindset is what helps you be successful where you're at. In addition, this role has definitely made for a lot more need for being reactive to problems that arise. So I think having like good problem solving skills is extremely helpful, and being able to do that, on the fly, because you don't always get a whole lot of preparation for some of those things that just happen to come up. And then if I had to pick a third one too, I think communication is essential. Communication might mean choosing to be quiet about something, remaining silent in the appropriate times, and also having a sense of humor when that's called for.
Yeah. And again, if you're watching live, don't hesitate to jump in here with Danielle. Maybe your kids are watching and they can give us some secrets here, or some, recipe, mom's best recipes, things like that.
I hope they don't.
Danielle, how about, I was not from Port Jervis. I was an outsider and came into a small town, which I've grown to love, and they've grown to accept me. Is knowing that community, Frontier Middle School, in Hamburg, New York, is knowing that community as well as you do, is that something that helps you or kind of hurts you in the role?
I feel as though it's a benefit to me. I'm very passionate about the work I do because I'm from this community and because I live in this community, and I'm raising my children here and they're going to school here too. So it takes a different perspective for me. And, they say like, don't take things personally. It's hard not to when it just is personal to you. And that's a very motivating thing for me.
Yeah. Danielle, we're going to talk about a number of your passions here, your family and your work and outside of school. But I know working with special education students is a deep passion of yours. Where did that start? How did you know that you wanted to help these kids that need our help so greatly?
Well, this is one of those powers of a single experience, because I did not originally go to college to be an educator. That wasn't the path I was on. It wasn't the path I thought I was going to be on. And surprisingly, when I look back at that, it's kind of interesting that all the friends I was friends with in college, they were education majors. I was the only one that wasn't, and it never occurred to me to be like, hey, what are you doing? Maybe I want to do that. I did not think of it at all while I was in college. So when I actually started thinking about like, what do I want to do? I had a bachelor's degree in psychology. I wasn't yet sure what I was going to do with it, because I had at this point changed my mind. I no longer wanted to be a law enforcement officer. So that was what the intention was of going for psychology. So I kind of was searching for, where do I want to be? I have an amazing friend, Sam, and she was in education. She was early in her career at that time. And she worked part-time as well at a group home to have extra money, because she was just starting out. And I remember talking to her, and I don't know where we were going, but we were like driving somewhere. And she was like, well, you should try this. I think you'd be good at it. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll apply. It was really just that kind of moment. Like, sure, I got time. I have a couple other jobs, but why not have another one? So I ended up applying there, and she had worked part-time to earn extra money, but it turned into my full-time gig to work at a People Incorporated group home, which services adults with developmental disabilities. It was like the best job I think I've ever had, prior to right now.
And you knew there that you wanted to work with that population.
I absolutely did. Like, I had no idea going into it that it would be something that I become so passionate about. I loved everything about it. Yeah.
And they're lucky to have you. We need people that have those hearts and minds and want to help those children. And they're lucky to have you, and good for you. Danielle, you touched on college a little bit. And again, not going for education, but you also kind of were on your own going to college. That the decision to do it, financially to do it, and nobody really pushing you to go. My mom is my biggest fan. She's watching. I was going to college, and my parents were paying for it, and that was just the next step. I didn't even really have a choice, right? And but you had a very different scenario. Why don't you tell me about that struggle, and what made you want to make sure that you went to college during that time?
Absolutely. And you better be thanking your mom all
Yeah.
the time, just so you know. She better hold you to that.
Thanks, Mom.
And it's not like my parents said, no, you can't go. I think, my parents were very young when they had me, and they happened to have friends who had children who went to college, and then, they paid money for it, and then their children flunked out. And that was all the stories I would get from my parents while I was in high school. And my parents are like, so just so you know, we're not doing that. So you better, figure that out, and you'll be fine, because both my parents didn't go to college, and they are fine without that education. But I wanted to have the education. And I did have extended family that I see one time a year. I kind of still consistently only see them one time a year, and all of them were in education. But that is like my second cousins, or as I first removed. We always had that debate. We weren't sure what we really should call each other. But they were kind of in that one time a year. We would just talk about my great uncle. I remember him telling me, you can go to college, right? And he'd be nodding his head up and down, like, because you're going to go. So I figured it out. I worked 3 jobs, and, I think I'm still paying the debt from it, but it's all worth it. And I would not have redone that in any way whatsoever. I'm glad that I went for it. And I encouraged my younger brother to do the same thing. So I feel like education is key. It's the life that I live, and I hope that I instill in my own children that this is what you're doing. You're going.
Nice. And you went to Fredonia. Did you have a good experience at Fredonia in the psychology major?
Yep, I loved Fredonia. I was a resident assistant, so that my room and board could be paid for. And then I also worked at a local restaurant there, which also it was here in Western New York at the time. So I was able to kind of transfer and work while I went to college. So I didn't spend a lot of time like a lot of students do doing the student, party life. I was very into doing my coursework and doing well because it was expensive and I needed to make the most of it.
Yeah. Well, good for you. And you are now, and you're doing something in your zone here. And we talked a little bit in the pre-show, Danielle, about, this experience, this podcast being a little bit out of your comfort zone, right? Public speaking and social media, but you still kind of agreed to do it. And you also touched on the growth mindset. So what was it that you said, you know what, I am going to try this. I am going to do it and come on the podcast?
Well, isn't the theme of 2020 to step outside of your comfort zone every day, all the time? Like, I feel like that's the theme for everybody, quite honestly. I personally am always looking for opportunities to learn and to grow. I've always loved being a student and learning. So I'm always kind of craving that and looking for different ways to do that. And for me, public speaking is a huge barrier for me moving forward. And it truly was something that kept me from moving out of my teaching job. You can put me in front of kids all day, that's fine. But when I move in front of the adults, it seems to give me a physical anxiety reaction that I don't even seemingly have control over. Like, I no longer feel confident that my legs will take me from where I'm standing in front of everybody to go sit back down. So, it's just something I'm really trying to work through. And I'm pretty honest about it with people, because I'm like, if I fall, I just want you to know it's from anxiety. Don't worry. I'll get back up eventually.
So in your role now as assistant principal, do you have to lead like meetings, speaking engagements? How have you tackled that?
Well, I think that's another part of, the benefit to having been at Frontier Middle School for so long and having developed relationships with people. To be in meetings with the people that are here does not really give me any anxiety at all. When I stand in front of the faculty, like in the auditorium amongst everyone, and they're all looking at me, that does give me anxiety. But now with all the requirements and mandates, we don't have any of those situations. So it's mostly just on like Zoom calls and things like that now.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to thousands of people now, and hopefully when this gets released, it'll go further, and you're doing great. So.
Well, thank you. I wish you would not have said that.
Danielle, one of the people you mentioned, your friend Sam earlier, but somebody else that kind of helped you along the way, that is a role model for you, is your principal, Ryan Sikorsky at Frontier Middle School. Two school leaders with the last name SKI. I don't know, but he's shown you a lot and really is a role model for you. What are some things that you like to see in him as your principal, and some things that you've learned from him?
Yeah. So one of the things that, he's the kind of leader that you just feel as though you feel confident and trusting in him, that you can emulate the kinds of things that he does, because he doesn't make it look so increasingly difficult to do, which is amazing, because it is very difficult to do, and he makes it look so much easier. But what I've noticed about him, and one of the things that I admire about him, is that he has great confidence and trust in his people. Mm-hmm. He does, with his admin team, with the teachers, with everybody, all the staff and faculty. He trusts and believes that you're going to do the best job that you can, and he stands by and supports you. He listens more than he talks, and he makes sure that he always includes you. Like when I was learning and deciding if I wanted to be a leader, he would definitely include me in the things that were difficult, so that I could see like how he navigated those different circumstances. So that was always like a great example of what a wonderful leader should be doing. He's modeling all the things that are the good things to be doing when you're leading buildings.
Yeah, and probably making it look easy along the way.
He totally makes it look effortless. It's absolutely ridiculous. But he's also extremely reflective on things. And there's a difference between being reflective and overthinking. I'm more on the side of overthinking. So he kind of helps me to reflect on things in a more positive way, so that I'm not overthinking and getting myself into that place where you spiral out of control.
Yeah. And this is great to hear, Danielle, right? Someone who's seeing something that they want to achieve too, and they're doing it and modeling, because we need great leaders in school. We need great leadership now. And kudos to Principal Sikorsky for doing that. I love your term about being inclusive. And I love the term, the leader is the person who invites everyone to the table. So to hear that he's doing that in terms of learning and growing leaders, it sounds like you're in a great spot, and it's the school that you went to. So you're checking all the boxes here. It's awesome. Yeah.
I know. And there was a tip from your book that I remember resonating with me about Ryan, like really strongly. And it was to stay calm, but don't be afraid to use a little mustard. Mm. And I've never said this to him, so if he's hearing it now, I feel a little bit embarrassed. But he is the chillest, most calm person in the world. Like it's so unleader-like and so unlike the way I naturally am. So he kind of calms me down a whole lot. But yet he has a presence about him that he can bring the mustard when he needs to.
Yeah, especially up there in Western New York, get it going. If you're watching live, we'd love to hear from you. And again, a question or comment for Danielle. She's doing great. And Danielle, we met in that book study. I was so happy to have you in the great group. What was it that made you say, I want to try this? And then you mentioned about the mustard. What were some takeaways that you took from that exercise that we did?
Well, I believe that wherever you work, whatever you do, that you should always do more than what's expected of you. Mm. I think that, when as a teacher in a classroom, those students always stood out to me. And I always wanted them to know that that's the skill here that I'm not necessarily teaching you, but it's the one that's going to help you be even more successful in your life than the skills I'm actually teaching. Like doing more than expected. I try to always be a role model of that, because I think that's important.
Cool. Yeah. And you mentioned the mustard. Was there anything that when you read the book said, I'm gonna do that right away?
Yes, I did I bought all of these cards, and I did start writing out cards and mailing them to students and some to staff as well. Just to and I'm not doing it as much as I would like to be, but I know that that's something that I'm going to be doing more of, just because it really feels natural for me to do something like that, and I feel good about it. So I hope other people enjoy that as well, and that it builds them up, because that's important. And I think that building relationships, you talked a lot about that during our book study. Those relationships are just so important. So sometimes I don't want to ever take for granted that I have some of those relationships and that I don't need to be fostering them more. I always want people to know I'm thinking about it and I'm caring about it. So.
Yeah. And that's that growth mindset, right? That you want to continue to make those relationships better. And really, there's no bonuses in these jobs, but the bonuses are when that parent a couple years later, maybe at graduation or whenever, and says, hey, I really want to thank you for that note that you sent to, Samantha for her getting into the National Honor Society when she was a sophomore.
Right.
And I'm like, I didn't even remember that. And I'm like, okay, good, thank you. And I'm like, did I send that? Was that me? But those cards and those acknowledgments mean so much, and they're definite relationship builders.
Right. And I think that with the pandemic and with schools today, I know our school started hybrid and then is currently full remote. I think with all the different and new things that we're doing today, I think one of your tips, meeting them where they are, is super important. People need to know that you're enough and it's okay. Wherever you are right now, we'll help and support you from there. And that's kind of in a different place for everybody at every time. People have real things going on at home that it's taking their attention and focus away from the work that they're trying to do, or they're working as hard as they can and not really feeling as though they're as successful as they had been before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to the thing we talked about at the beginning of the show, right? Knowing that people are stressed too, that level of stress is so high. And again, just trying to take a little bit off. So,
right.
But it was great that you came to that. And then here you are. And again, we hope that this podcast, people see it somewhere, and you never know where it's going to take you. So, Danielle, about you, outside of school, you have some other things that you're very passionate about too. We talked a lot about your school life, but you're a mom. You mentioned your husband earlier. You're into fitness, but you're also really into country music and a hockey mom. I hear a lot about soccer moms, but maybe I'm not in Western New York hearing about hockey moms, but those are two big parts of your life. Tell me about the country music first.
Well, my daughter is 13, like I said, and she is the absolute most fun human being to go to any concert with. I took her to her first concert the summer before last, before the whole pandemic hit. We went to Darien Lake. It's called Six Flags sometimes. I'm not sure what it is right now. We went there and saw Thomas Rhett in concert. He is her favorite country star of all time. So we went there. We had so much fun. Talk about dancing like no one is watching. That is what 15-year-olds do, and it is so wonderful to watch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what is it about the country music? Is it the stories? Is it the perseverance of the artist? Is it the music? What is it?
I feel like a lot of the artists have wonderful stories. I feel like as a genre, they really give back a lot. And I find that to be very wholesome and needed in the world today. I never really need to worry that there's, anything too inappropriate that's in there for my children to be listening to. And our whole family kind of enjoys it. It's kind of the thing we can all sing along to. So that's kind of makes it fun as well.
Yeah. I love it too, and if you haven't been, I recommend the Country Music Festival in Nashville when this is all over with. But that is a great spot. So that's good. I'm a fan as well. And the other thing, Danielle, being a hockey mom, and that's with your son, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I think hockey moms out there, I think we're of a very passionate breed. That is for sure, because I don't know who I am when I am at the hockey rink. I become somebody else. I've never been I never played a sport growing up. So that adrenaline feeling that I've read about and heard people speak to, I don't have. I never felt that before. So I'm thinking that's what this is when I'm watching my son play. I am insane. Like, I'm screaming his name. I'm very embarrassing. I just really love being his best cheerleader and his biggest fan. It's one of my favorite things to do. And with the pandemic happening, I really just feel like that is one of the things that I miss the most, because that was really a major part of what our family does together.
Yeah. Is that shut down in your area? Is it not happening?
Well, he can practice, but he can't play games.
So no yelling from Mom.
No, I have no one to yell at. I can't get that out of my system.
And are you yelling at him? Are you yelling at the game, the refs?
Oh, no, I don't mean any yelling that's negative in any way. Just the encouragement. Yes, okay. I'm so proud of you. Go get them, get a goal, like that kind of thing.
Okay. And the people around you are bringing the noise-canceling headphones.
Well, some people bring cowbells, and that's aggressive, so I don't like that.
I like the cowbell. I like it. And Danielle, again, being a healthy leader, being a healthy role model is important, and you talked a little bit about that in our pre-show. Like, how do you sharpen your saw? How do you find time to exercise and, eat healthy and do that being such a busy person?
Well, I don't give myself too strict of rules for anything. I'm pretty flexible and easy on myself and forgiving. And, you have to listen to what your body's telling you and listen to what your mind is telling you. And when you need to shut it down, then you have to shut it down. Mm-hmm. I am a homebody by nature. Quarantining is not a super scary thing to me. That's okay. I don't mind staying at home and being there. And I tend to really just relax and shut it down when I need to.
Is there a health routine do you like running? Do you work out in your house? Like, what is it? What is your trip?
Yes, I love designing workout programs to use weights for the most part. I used to be an avid runner, and running really mentally puts me in a great place, and I love that. But I had a knee injury, and now running just doesn't feel the same anymore. And it actually, when I do try to do it, because I'm one of those people, I don't like to be told I can't. And the doctor kept telling me, you probably shouldn't run. You should just walk fast. Well, that is not the same. So I do the walking fast, but then I just add the different weight programs to it. And now with YouTube, there's so many options to look at and take from it what you want and design something of your own and keep it new and different every day. So that's motivating to do. I'm not an early morning workout person, though. I want to be, and I tried it. I am very unsuccessful at it. Yeah. I have to do it later.
And especially right where we live, the cold, the dark. I used to be able to do it too, and I don't know if it's that I'm getting older. I have a collared shirt on now, but I got my shorts on because I'm going to exercise right after this. But I'm with you on that. It's challenging in the morning.
Really is. And it's hard sometimes, when the job gets very busy. There's different times of the year when you tend to be inundated with many more after school events and things like that, or just stressful things happening. And then you tend to put a lot of those things to the wayside. And I always try to get it back. The team of people I work with, they're avid exercisers. So that's like a good reminder to me too, to, remember to take care of myself, because when you empty your own cup, then you're not good for other people.
Spot on. It sounds like you're in a great spot, Danielle, and around good leaders. That's great. Danielle, is there anything else you wanted to share? We're going to get to rapid fire here and get rolling, but this is a tricky time. People are looking for inspiration. They're looking for leadership. Was there anything else you wanted to share for parents or school leaders or teachers that might be watching?
I think so. Right now, things are not supposed to be perfect. And I think people are really looking for everyone to fix everything and make it better. This can't be better. I think everybody is doing the best they can. If this was the best model of education that anybody could do, we would be doing it all the time. And for sure, everyone knows, everybody in education, this is not better. We're doing the best that we can, but we want it to go back to, the way that it used to be, because we believe that seeing kids all the time, that's what's better.
Yeah, great point. and people are doing their best, and they need to forgive themselves a little bit and not have so much pressure.
And we have to believe in tomorrow, like be kind today because this is going to pass. And then we all have to pick up the pieces and continue on. So, kindness matters, and, being great role models for each other and for the children, I think is super important.
Awesome. Well said, Danielle. I agree. Believe in tomorrow. That's beautiful. Let's get to rapid fire. It is exactly what the title is. They are quick answers. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Western New York. Last book you read?
Personal and Authentic by Tom Murray.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I read that in the summer, right after I did the spring session with you. So it was like perfect segue. Do you know you both use the acronym for FEAR, but you both use it differently?
Really?
Really. His is to forget everything and run, or forget everything and rise. And then yours is different.
False evidence appearing real.
Yes. So we both use that acronym.
Interesting. Okay. Last movie you saw?
Christmas Vacation.
Classic.
Yeah.
Love it. Moana, the action thing, you and your daughter, with the thumbs up. Favorite place to travel?
Well, I like to stay at home, but if Vegas is one of my most favorite places to go. I love Vegas.
Is it the weather? Is it the gambling? Is it the shows? What is it?
All of that you just said. I loved it. We went 3 times. The first time we stayed for an entire week. I wasn't bored for 1 second. Like, I love how hotels have more than one pool, so you can go for whatever the vibe is of your day. Like, it was just so much fun, so much to do. And of course we gambled, but it wasn't like the main component of the vacation at all. You could definitely go to Vegas and not be a gambler.
Vegas. Best cold weather trick from Western New York to keep warm?
Drink hot beverages. It's either. You could experiment with all different kinds of hot beverages. You could really see. My daughter and I decided we were going to make hot cocoa bombs. Have you heard of these?
I have not.
You have not? So you buy a mold and you melt chocolate, and the mold makes it into a hollow chocolate ball. You fill it with a packet of hot cocoa and then some mini marshmallows. You buy the real ones in the bag, not the ones that come in the cocoa packet. Mm-hmm. And then you kind of meld the 2 halves of the ball together, and then you chill it, and then you drop it inside of coffee or hot milk or hot water, and eventually it'll melt and all the marshmallows will kind of pop up and kind of make a really small explosion. It doesn't go all over or anything. I was expecting something bigger because we were calling it a chocolate bomb, but it wasn't. It was fun.
I've been writing down points of wisdom that you shared, and I like to put out highlights. I've never had a highlight, but I might have to push this out about the chocolate bomb.
Well, you have to decorate it too, so it looks pretty, and then it looks like an ornament, actually. If you search it on Pinterest, I'm sure you'll find it.
I love it. Danielle, you shared a lot of passions. You shared a lot of things that get you going and that you're into. What is something that just gets under your skin, something that bothers you, like a pet peeve?
Not seeing things from other people's perspective. I think working in the group home and working with special education students has taught me to look at things through a different lens all of the time. And that's not one lens, it's multiple lenses, and sometimes all at once. Just to try to keep the perspectives of where other people are coming from and meet them where they're at.
Well said. We know you're not working out in the morning, but what are some great leadership morning routines that you want to share?
Well, you have inspired me to have a new one, and I have to thank you for it, because when we were setting up this interview, you said, make sure you listen to some of the other podcasts, which I had done back in the spring when we were doing this. It was like I would listen to some here and there. So instead of listening to the news in the morning, which is incredibly negative and depleting, I have made it a new routine to listen to a podcast every single day while I get ready for work. I feel like I am smarter from doing that. It puts education vocabulary and perspectives and just positivity right into my heart and mind for the whole day. So thank
Awesome.
you.
Awesome. And you'll be putting those notes in the Rocket book that you'll be using. So good for you.
Yes, yes.
Favorite thing about Western New York?
The food. If you come here, you have to eat here because it's delicious.
I was supposed to go this past summer. We were going up. We were going to go around. I was going to have wings in Buffalo, and we were going to go to the falls and then up and around. Yeah.
Oh, that would be a wonderful trip. Have you ever been to the falls?
We have not.
Well, you have to go. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world.
It's on the list, and I'm hoping we can go back. So I know wings, right? People go crazy about the wings. Like, what else? What else is a food up there? Where is there something else that?
Well, I like spicy, anything buffalo spicy food I think is delicious. A lot of people that come here like roast beef on weck. I'm not a huge fan of that, but that is like a, buffalo favorite. I like pub food. So if you came to Western New York and you went to any pub, I'm positive whatever you ordered would be fantastic.
Wow. And it's roast beef on what?
Weck. It's like a weck roll. It's like a roll that has big grains of salt on top.
Oh man, we are just learning all kinds of stuff here. We got wax, we got chocolate bombs, man. Awesome. Your go-to line, right? This is probably new in your role of leadership, but if a parent's really giving you the business on the other end, what's your line?
What can I do to help?
Smart. Smart. Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life.
I have a caffeine addiction, so that would have to be my 14-cup coffee pot. I cannot do a Keurig because it would take too much of my day to make a cup at here, there, and everywhere. So I just like the 14 cups made every day.
Is it you keep it at school and kind of keep going back to it?
No, I make it in the morning and then bring a huge cup to school, and then make more when I go home.
You talked about that on the book study. I remember you saying it. I was like, what?
Yes, because you said bring your favorite drink, and everybody else seemed to have other kinds of things, and I just had my coffee.
That's
right.
I'm
boring like that.
That's right. Something about Danielle Kalinski that people do not know about.
Well, I mentioned a little bit that I actually went to school to be a police officer, and I had met prior to that with an Army recruiter because, like I told you, searching for how to pay for college was a real thing. So I wanted to perhaps go into an ROTC program. So I was like this close to enlisting, and then I changed my mind. But the police thing has always been a passion of mine. But anyone who knows me well would think that that's hilarious because I have zero sense of direction and my driving skills are questionable to say the least. They take pictures of how I'm parked in my parking spot. It's never correct. So police shows, though, are my favorite because then I can live vicariously through those actors and actresses.
And again, you hope it's not a lot of your job, but you have to do some enforcing of the rules at school and some disciplining, and so you have a touch of that in your role.
You just don't get the cool uniform and the taser and stuff. Yeah.
Best COVID advice that you would give to others?
Stay home.
True.
Find things you love there.
And I love quotes. I'm a quote person. Do you have a favorite that you want to end this with?
Well, I hope that mine doesn't sound too cheesy, but know that I was around kids more than I've been, leading adults. And I would always say to my students, what you think about, you bring about. And they would actually say it for me in a lot of different circumstances so that I wouldn't say it again. But truly, I believe in that mindset. And if you just tell yourself that good things are going to happen, I believe that they will.
Danielle, you did great. I know this was a little out of your zone, but you really did good. If people want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way, Danielle?
I have that. My Twitter feed is actually the one social media thing that I actually use more than anything else. So that would be the best way to do it, at Kalinski_Danielle.
Did I have it right here on the bottom? Is it at D_? That's it?
Yep.
Okay, so it's at D_Kalinski. This was Danielle Kalinski from Frontier Middle School. You did great, Danielle. We appreciate you. And again, thanks for tuning in. I am at Andrew Marotta 21 on Twitter. This was show number 149. Unbelievable. Danielle, you stay on the line. We're going to cue this music up and just keep going. All right, we're going to end the show here. And Danielle, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all those who left a comment. Dr. Dina, we appreciate you. And keep surviving and thriving, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you.